Another gimbal, another review. Today we're going to go through the WEEBILL 3. I'm going to compare its functionalities. Once again, this is my product, not being paid, so I'm going to give you the good, the bad, and the ugly, okay? So all the good stuff and all the bad stuff. Without further ado, let's get into it. Now, keep in mind, I'm going to do a Zhiyun full-on comparison with all my Zhiyun gimbals just to recommend in 2022, hopefully make it easier on your decision-making process. That's coming very, very soon, okay? So definitely a lot of things coming this month. Now, first of all, this comes in two different packages. I'm not sure where it is in your country, but for me, this is the basic gimbal version. It doesn't come with, let me just take this out. So this is the basic package. You get the gimbal and in a normal foam box, nothing else but all the basic accessories. Now, if you do get the combo version, you do get 2 additional accessories and a backpack. The 2 different accessories, one of them is one of these. And this is a top-down handle. So you hold it from above and you plug it in from the left or the right. Now, one thing to keep in mind, you can plug this handle on the left or the right. It comes on both sides. Unfortunately, with the wrist support, this is only right-handed. So you can only plug it on the right-hand side. I spoke with Zhiyun and they said, look, they designed their gimbals predominantly for the right-hander, even with all the buttons layouts. So most of their users are right-hand based. So that's what this is for. Now you can put this on the left-hand side. You know, the right-hand side has been taken on by the wrist support. So you can adjust this by turning the knob depending on how you like to have it. The support is actually quite nice. Feel like a composite rubber. The same material that you have on the grip, semi-hollow inside. So it's quite soft, which is good, right, for cushion support. Now, at high angle, it does kind of block the power on button, but overall, not a big issue. The hand grip is adjustable as well. So you have a knob, you turn this, and you can extend this. This is as far as it goes, and you can hold it kind of upside down. Pretty easy, okay? But one thing to keep in mind, one thing I don't like is that the fact this is made from foam. It's stuck on there, but there is a little bit of give, like it turns a little bit to the left and right, and that doesn't give me a sense of security. I feel like this time they've tried to save a little bit of cost. You know, if you compare to the old WEEBILL 2, this is a much more sturdy, much more confident, you know, driven hand grip. And another thing to keep in mind is because it's on the side, if you have this top-down shot like this, your center of gravity is actually leaned towards the opposite side of your camera. You see, it's leaned a little bit at an angle. So what you have to do is you would have to loosen this. Luckily, you can adjust this and then spin the handle a little bit to the right or a little bit to the center. You've got yourself a much more balanced grip. Now, when I'm holding it, oops, see that? That's what I mean by security. You really have to tighten this, otherwise you'll forget. Now I'm kind of holding it in the middle, so the camera is dead on straight. You know, that's the only drawback I feel like with this time, the design of the hand grip. But apart from that, let's go through the other features and the design. I'm gonna just compare WEEBILL 2, WEEBILL 3 because those draw the most similarities. Now, in terms of size, you can see straight away the WEEBILL 3 is much smaller, and that's what they're aiming for this time. Small, compact, yet capable. Capable enough to support a mirrorless camera with a fairly decent heavy setup. This is a GM2470, by the way, and so that's around 1.5 kilos. In terms of height, it's a lot smaller. Now, it's only because the stand underneath of the WEEBILL 3 is actually a little bit higher. What you can do with a new version is that you can actually remove this, and it's fairly stable. And now you can see the size difference. Wow, big difference, right? I'm gonna remove this just to show you as well. It is still relatively higher and bigger. Now, the reason they've designed it this way is because they've put the battery at the base. Now, that serves 2 purposes. One, ergonomics. Now, with the base underneath, you're able to get a much better support for your palm if you have big hands especially, so you can have your full support. And then with the wrist support, if you do decide to buy it, a complete coverage of your hand and wrist. So ergonomics, this time it feels a lot better. I can tell you the wrist support is actually really good, especially if you hold it like this. And the second benefit is center of gravity. By lowering the base, we're getting a lower center of gravity. So all the weight, once again, is on your hand. So that's really good, clever design. Now, in terms of hand grip, it's thinner by a little bit and not as thick. Smaller hand grip, smaller footprint. In terms of battery, it's got 3 18650 batteries, so each at 26 milliamps. So in total, this thing is able to power on official paper 21 hours. That's nearly double of this. This is, I think it was 12 from memory. From my testing, from my use, I wasn't able to use the whole battery. I would have to be constantly, you know, shooting this and moving this to actually drain all the batteries. So I wasn't able to do that, but it was more than capable, and I can tell you better than the Weebill 2 in terms of battery usage. Both supports PD fast charge. This takes about 2 hours for a full charge. I think this is 1.5 hours. In terms of weight, this is 1.24 kilos. Definitely a lot lighter. You can feel it in the hands. But keep in mind, 1.24 does not include this tripod. This is about another 100 grams, so keep that in mind. Okay, moving up on the design. Now you can see straight away we have a much smaller screen. I'm going to take the side handle off just so you can see a little bit better. All the functions, it's both in English and Chinese. Everything's in here, so you don't really need the app. Whereas in the Weebill 2, we have a much bigger screen. This is a touch screen, so that's one of the big draw cards of the Weebill 2. You're able to use this to track your subject and then focus and then just draw a circle. It active tracks. But there's one problem. How many people actually use active track? Put your hands up or even leave it in the comments, because I hardly use it. And second thing, this thing sucks battery like an infant sucks your mama's. I mean, this thing just drains it like crazy, I'm telling you. I hardly use this. Most of the time I turn it off and then it saves a lot of battery. Whereas this time it's much more focused on the actual usage of the gimbal rather than gimmicky features. So I really like that, the fact that we've actually minimized it, so focus on the basics. In terms of buttons, we've got a joystick here, we've got a record button as well as a mode button, okay? We've got this on the Weebill 2 as well, the mode button and the record button. The button actually feels better on the Weebill 2. It's much more solid build, whereas on the Weebill 3, I feel like it's anodized or painted silver. Turn it around on this side, we have the menu, as well as a scroll. But on the Weebill 2, we don't have that because everything is touchscreen on the monitor, so it doesn't have that. But it does have a 1/4-inch screw hole, which this does not. Now, this thing has a scroll. This is to control, for the first time, a selfie light. Now, this is similar to the one we see on the M3. We've got a selfie light at the front, you can see here. Comes with magnet filters. You can actually adjust the color, temperature of the light. It's actually decent in a pinch. Now the scroll controls the brightness as well as the Kelvin, and to switch between modes, you just press down on that. 2600 to 5400, so very warm to very cool daylight temperature. Now in terms of the front, you can see we've got a trigger button. We have that on the Weebill 2 as well, but what we do have is a thumb, or what do you call this? A rolling button, right? We had this on the M3, right? It's actually quite useful. You can customize both of these buttons to do whatever you want. So you can adjust the yawn, and then I can adjust the pitch. And if your camera is capable with Bluetooth functions and all that good stuff, you can adjust the ISO, the aperture, as well as the e-focus if you want to plug that in, as well as the zoom, okay? Now, likewise, with this trigger button, you can adjust this. One click, you can change different modes. So right now, I'm in pan focus. Okay, I can turn, I can spin, perfectly fine. Now, if I wanted to, all I have to do is tap this, and it goes to lock mode. Right, it goes to lock mode, and then while I'm still shooting or moving, I can tap it again, and it goes to pan focus, and I can quickly change my angle, and then tap it again, I can lock again, so it stays stationary, press it again, I'm back into pan focus. So it depends on how you use your gimbal. I think that's a really good functionality. And of course, if you hold on to it, it's go mode, and if you triple tap, it's a selfie mode. This is a much bigger gimbal on the Weebill 2, whereas the Weebill 3 is a lot smaller, it's more compact, yet as capable. Now on paper, on the Zhiyun website, this is actually more capable than this one. The official weight is 3 kilos, and this is meant to be a little bit more than that. But to be honest, look, if you're a mirrorless camera user like me, I'm using the M3 or the S3 with a GM 2470. This is the series one. It's around 1.5 kilos, and it's more than capable on one of these suckers. Unless you have a cinema camera, you might want to consider something a bit better. But otherwise, this is actually really good. For the first time on a gimbal, there is a directional microphone. And that's really handy for when you want to record something on a pinch. You can actually plug this straight into your camera. And now that eliminates the need of one of these shotgun microphone on top of the camera, so it doesn't obstruct while you're moving the camera or turning. So that's a really good feature, but we will test the microphone later on in the video. Now both use a quick release plate. The difference is on the Weebill 3, it comes with additional plate like this. Now that doesn't obstruct the battery, so you can change batteries while you're shooting. And the other benefit is, let me show you, you put this straight on and it slides on just like that. Now, if you already pre-balance your camera with this setup, you can take it up, shoot your camera handheld, and then place it onto the gimbal. That makes it really easy. And the second thing is, it actually makes your camera sit a little bit higher. So in particular, if you're using one of these big lenses that's actually quite big, you need a step-up plate to actually give that extra bit of leverage. So you've got a camera support down here, and you can see I've got plenty of clearance, and that makes it perfect for big lenses. Oh, and I forgot to mention, for the first time, it comes with one of these. Do you see that? That is a magnet little key that you can mount your camera onto with the screw, and it kind of just sticks here. So in terms of clearance, you can see my EVF is not hitting the gimbal. So there's enough clearance for a camera like this, but because the lens is so long, I'm gonna hit the top. See that? I'm hitting the top. Perfect clearance, not hitting the gimbal, but I am hitting a little bit to the back. In terms of sideways, you can only go so far, right? You can go around this way, right? 270 roughly, and then you kind of get stuck, which is likely for most gimbals. I'm just gonna quickly auto-tune this. I mean, with gimbals so capable these days, you don't even have to 100% balance it perfectly. You have about 80–90% correct and you're good to go, right? So let's have a look. Okay, so I'm on pan focus mode and I just wanna show you, okay? So totally fine, there's no shakes. I'm gonna go into hand grip mode. Here we go. See that? See the support? It just helps it so much. I can carry this on my one hand with the heavy setup. So this is about 3 kilos all up, right? So, you know, totally fine. Just kind of rock it forward. You can move up, you know, here's the angle. I want to show you the angle, right? So right about here, and then it's going to go over here. And it's going to hit the camera lens. So here we go, right? Pretty easy. Now let's go to lock mode. Lock mode, okay. 360 degrees, not a problem. Oh, I'm getting dizzy. All right, I'm just going to show you all the capabilities. Now, if you turn it this way, here's the limitation right there. See that? Gimbals are not made to do this move, but I just want to show you anyway. So it gets to a point about here, and it gets stuck. And then you kind of have to, see that? GG. Okay, now I'm going to double tap this, and then we're going to go into POV mode, which is like, you know what this mode is, but I'm just going to show you how capable this is, okay? Now, don't do this at home, boys. This is pretty dangerous. I'm actually pretty skeptical, but you can see, not a problem, okay? All the different angles you can throw at. I'm just gonna go really hard, really fast, and it's fine. It's POV after all. There you go. Now, if you double tap again, we're going to vortex mode, and you have to shoot it like this, right? It goes forward, and you shoot it like this. And you can control everything with one hand. So I think that's the whole purpose of this gimbal. So to be able to control everything with one hand. Now, if you like to do a lot of portrait shots, double tap again, you become portrait mode. And portrait mode, you can only shoot it in this angle. So this is like this for a lot of gimbals these days. You can only shoot portrait modes in shotgun mode. And one thing to keep in mind, now in portrait mode, you can't have lock mode, okay? So you can't lock your gimbal while you're doing portrait, but yeah, that's one of the limitations. So clearance gimbal is definitely not an issue. We're gonna go outside just to test how stable this is, okay? Same test we're gonna do every time. We're gonna do a 24mm, we're gonna do a 70mm with image stabilization on and off, both walking and running. Okay, so you've seen the test. Let me know what you think, how good it's capable in the comments below. Do you think it's stable, or do you think your gimbal is fine, or do you think this is not worth the purchase? Now, my recommendation, who this is for, I think it's for those who are looking for a gimbal, who are in the semi-professional industry in filmmaking, who has a mirrorless camera or a fairly heavy setup, or is looking to upgrade your camera set to something that's more, all-day use, capable, and still compact enough to carry around. And if you don't have a gimbal and you do have a fairly good heavy setup, I think this is definitely the one to go for. If you have a Weebill 2, I don't think it's worth justifying to upgrade because I think the Weebill 2 is already fairly good gimbal doing what it's able to do. Now, keep in mind, I'm gonna do a during full-on comparison with all my during gimbals just to recommend in 2022, hopefully make it easier on your decision-making process. That's coming very, very soon, okay? So definitely a lot of things coming this month. Hopefully you like this unbiased, honest review. If you want to see more honest reviews, definitely feel free to subscribe and do leave a like if you think this is helpful, okay? I'm George. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.